Good evening, my brothers and sisters. It is a great pleasure for me to be in your great country and in the great city of Sydney. You have taken for granted how beautiful your country is, but I appreciate probably better than you since I just came the first time. It's so beautiful and clean and friendly. I think the people of Australia are very lucky to have at least the outer paradise on earth. And should we have inner paradise as well, then we are perfect. We have the perfect condition. And we do not wish to be in any other heaven. I'm happy and grateful that you have reserved some precious time to come here, that we can get to know each other. I have not the desire to come in such a way, or I have no desire to come at all, even though I like Australia. But just the invitation, repeated request from my fellow practitioners in Australia that I have the honor to come here at all. But even then, in my heart, I have always the strong conviction that you and I are no difference. There's no distinction whatsoever between each of us. And that I have absolutely nothing to teach you except to exchange the love and all the things that God has given us. But since some of our fellow practitioners in Australia were so loving and so earnest in their request of my presence, that I have been brought here, perhaps by the love of the disciples, so-called disciples, and by the will of God, that I may get to know your country, that we might link with each other, at least through my humble presence. Maybe that is the only purpose that I should be here. But then, wherever I am invited to go, there will be always people who, perhaps humble in their attitude, or perhaps have forgotten their origin. That is their own kingdom of God, their own wisdom. And therefore, there will be always questions about how to seek the Buddha or God or the Christ power within themselves. And therefore it seems that my purpose of coming to some places is to share with the people in that native land some of my collected knowledge about how to return to our own wisdom or the supreme power within ourselves. Many times I was asked, why the title of the Supreme Master? Am I so arrogant to call myself the Supreme Master? I said, no, it's the name of my father. Just like you are Mr. Smith, and so your daughter is also Miss Smith. And it's also the name of our father, your father. And so you can also call yourself the Supreme. I actually forgot all about it, but just people keep reminding me. Now, in this world, we have found a lot of suffering as well as happiness. And most of the people would like to know why there is suffering and how to find happiness. The question to me is not to eliminate so much of the suffering and not to gain more happiness, but to gain the supreme power through which we see happiness and suffering as just a stage play. And then we will see things in life just as we see the movie. We may have a little emotion through the characters in the movies, but we will not be overwhelmed by this emotion and get drowned in this emotion. So therefore, the difference between a so-called enlightened person and a so-called non-enlightened person is the strength, is the outlook for the different phenomena in this world, as well as the world beyond. When we say the world beyond, it is actually not correct, because there is no world beyond. Every word is within us. And when we say within, it's also not correct, because there is no outside and no inside. But because of our human language, we have to express it somehow, the inner feeling or the inner intuitive understanding. Actually, there is a very strange feeling after enlightenment, because you feel that everyone is all right the way they are. And you know that everyone has this supreme power within themselves, or the Buddha nature within themselves. And why don't they know it? And therefore identify themselves with the suffering within and without. But because of that, many of people of the world like to seek enlightenment so that they know. After enlightenment, you were just the same as before. But there's only one difference, is that you accept everything that comes to you. And everything is given to you is holy. And everyone else is holy. Even though maybe in the course of teaching or guiding, the enlightened person might point out some direction that perhaps is useful for the true seekers after the kingdom of God. Therefore, we have heard of perhaps vegetarian diet, or the 10 precepts in the Bible, the 5 precepts of the Buddhists, etc. These are the helping factors for the spiritual seeker, so that he or she may achieve the quicker result and the safest way to attain the so-called liberation. If we had known that we are already liberated, perhaps these things are not absolutely necessary. But because most of us do not know that we are liberated, therefore we need some tools like meditation practice, vegetarian diet, and ethical precepts. Sometimes people give bargaining, saying, well, I want initiation, but no precept and no vegetarian. Is that all right? I said to him, it is all right, as long as you want to play the football with other people, but bring along the tennis ball or tennis equipment. And then you would not be playing football at all. Then the game is spoiled, and you yourself will not be enjoying the football game, but just being in a messy condition. There is such thing as enlightenment, as long as we are still in the ignorant state of mind. That means we do not know that we are enlightened. Then we need enlightenment. What for enlightenment? So long as we still want to seek peace and happiness within ourselves, and to grant this happiness to other people, we need enlightenment. Should we think this world is perfect the way it is, and we still continue to go on without caring whether we will be here next, will be reborn again as what or not? And of course, we do not need. If we still care for the welfare of the world and peace in this earth, of course we need enlightenment. Before my so-called enlightenment, I was having a very so-called good life, very harmonious. Well, I mean, not 100%, but comparable to other harmonious life. And there was nothing that I need or desire to have, which I don't already have. But somehow, there are many things in this life, like richness, fame, health, happy marriage, friends, etc., do not seem to completely fill the emptiness within our heart. That is because we are lacking the knowledge of our own super wisdom. After we have found our own super wisdom, maybe we still continue to serve a household life, to enjoy our marriage, to raise our children, to fulfill our social obligation. But the total outlook is completely different from before. We'll be contented. The contentment that I have mentioned is not similar to the contentment that we feel after we eat a nice meal, or maybe meet a good friend, or having a very merry party. Because this contentment is everlasting. Whether we have a party or not, whether we are married or not married, whether we have a good position or not good position, whether we are wealthy or we are not wealthy, whether we are in good health or we are in illness. This stability of mind, this peacefulness of our own being will be achieved only if we are enlightened. The cause of all suffering is not through an external condition, but it is truly from our own attitude. Just like, for example, many Indian monks or other countries' monks, they live a very simple life. They probably live in a cave or a tent, or they just sleep wherever they can. But they are very happy and contented, and they don't ask for anything. But to an ordinary person, if he is to be forced to spend his time in such a condition, he will feel very unhappy. And he will be forever striving to gain more rich or more fame or whatever in his mind appear to be desirable. Similarly, also in spiritual practice, if we do not find the best way, the fastest way to achieve our highest enlightenment goal, then we'll be also forever desiring spiritual experiences. Not that many other methods cannot offer us enlightenment. It just probably, it takes too long, and we will be exasperated by waiting too long, and nothing happened, or it happened just too little. It couldn't satisfy our longing for God, if you call that God. What is God? Many people ask me, is that a person or is it an impersonal power? I always told them it is both. If it should appear to you as a person to satisfy your longing, then it will be that way. If not, then you will perceive through intuitive understanding what God is. We imagine God is the fulfiller of our wishes, of our promises, but that is true, even though it is too materialistic a way to express what God is. We don't find God as a person who sits there and grants us every candy or cake that we want to have. But automatically, our life will be fulfilled. But we will be fulfilled even with or without candy. That is the paradoxical way of God. Because God is our own fulfilled self, our own very self. When we attain to ourself, we will never feel lacking in any way at all. And all those so-called CD's power, mean the supernatural power of any kind, will automatically come to us. Most of the masters do not advocate supernatural power for fearing that we attach ourselves too much to the spiritual materialism, and therefore we have not the interest and the strength enough to go further into a higher realms of realization. In India there was a story about a king. He was a very good king and loving to his subject. Now one day he arranged that all his possessions, treasures, will be given to the people at large. Whoever need anything can just come and satisfy him or herself at the exhibition without any condition at all. Because he has no children and no family ties, so he loved his people as his own. Everyone came and picked something of his heart's desire. But there was one girl. She came and go straight to the back of the probably the room or the place where the king exhibited all his possessions, and put her hand on his shoulders and asked, "Are you also available?" And the king was surprised. Say, "Why? Didn't you like any of the things that I have laid outside?" So the girl said, "No, I only like you." So and then, of course, the king was very happy that somebody liked him for himself alone and not because of his treasures. Of course, then the king availed to her, and then they got married, something like that. Live happily ever after, as we should be. And you know what happened? The girl did not want anything, but the whole nation belonged to her, including all these subjects and all these objects. Therefore, in our path, we also do not advocate the miracle power. Doesn't mean we don't have. After the great enlightenment, or even small enlightenment, we have all the powers that we want. But then we will have so much that we don't even know how much power we have. Instead of clinging to a corner of the house, we have the whole house and included that corner. Some people, before coming to learn this immediate enlightenment method of the heavenly light and sound, they have also tried to practice in many other meditational ways. And they have also achieved probably somewhat of the CD's power, or the power of seeing very far away, or hearing something which is not in the vicinity. For example, I sit here and I can see what happened in London, or I can hear what happened in Paris. Yes, this is so-called CD powers. Or probably we can read the other people's mind, see what he's thinking about us. Yeah. Wow, this is probably good for the spy, for the people who are doing 007 or something like that. But then after they have become initiated into our path, and somehow they lost these powers. Or maybe they have seen some better things or know better knowledge that they have begged the Master to take away this CD's power from them. There are two reasons for this. First, probably they've gone too high, higher than the CD power level. So they have overlooked the previous miracle that they have possessed The second reason why they have not lost this power and beg the master to take them away, it is because they probably still cling to this power somewhat in their mind. And so the master let them have the choice to forsake it themselves or not. Because after you have gone into a little bit further region of consciousness, a higher level of being, then you will feel that these cities, so-called power, are more hindrance than help to our spiritual progress. Therefore, we automatically do not want to use them. Suppose you sit here in samadhi, in a very tranquil state of mind, where you are in a super awareness of your true self, and you have no desire absolutely for heaven and earth. And then you see something happen in London, which is very gruesome, and then you can't do nothing about it. Would that make you feel comfortable? No, not really, right, you're correct. Yeah, you feel more frustrated, and then you get more upset, and you have tried to attain the state of peace of mind, and here you are feeling very frustrated and miserable about somewhere else's condition, of which you cannot do absolutely anything at all. Or maybe you see to somebody else's heart or mind, or you see into your wife's heart and see that she's loving the neighbors and not you. And then could that be helpful when you're sitting in meditation? No. And suppose somebody bearing a lot of hatred against us, and then we have the power to penetrate his mind. That would be very uncomfortable feeling for both. Because most of the people have sometimes very uncontrollable feeling, uncontrollable emotion within themselves, which might or might not have nothing to do with them. And if we get to know all these things, it's only useless. And then we always worry about this mundane level, and we can never get into the beyond in order to merge ourselves in the greatest wisdom. There are a lot of spiritual happenings in our century, and therefore it is good for us, very good for our people in this age, to know so much about the superpower within ourselves. But sometimes it also confuses us as to follow which direction, because mostly we will be tempted by the so-called immediate result, like a miraculous power or healing ability, and seeing through the walls or walking in the space, etc. That we forgot what is the main purpose of practicing meditation or getting to know spirituality at all. It shouldn't be really. Because when we know our true self, the supreme wisdom inside, we will know everything. That, I think, is the best measurement, the best standard to judge which path we should concentrate on. Therefore, Jesus also says, "Seek you first the kingdom of God, and all other things shall be added unto you." The kingdom of God is not something that is very far away in heaven. It is here right now. And we have them all within ourselves. We only have to unlock it and use it every day. And then we will see how better a person we become, how wise, how loving, and how satisfied a person we will become. The kingdom of God is not something that is very far away in heaven. It is here right now. And we have them all within ourselves. We only have to unlock it and use it every day. And then we will see how better a person we become, how wise, how loving, and how satisfied a person we will become. Of course, the spiritual attainment is not measured in material sense or value, but it is just the frustrating inability of anyone to express a greater value of insight. We have to start somewhere. Because most of people will ask me, what is the use of practice meditation, of getting enlightenment at all? If we're not enlightened, is that all right or not? Yes, it is all right. It is very, very much all right. But look at our world. Is it absolutely all right? If the answer is no, that means we're lacking something despite all our material comfort or the scientific invention. Our world is probably all right in some part, perhaps in Australia, but not all right in many other parts. And why? It is because of lack of wisdom. It is because we cling to our small little knowledge and trying to do things to conquer the world with this little knowledge that we have. Should we have access to the whole wisdom, which is incredible, absolutely unimaginable, then we would do things in a better way. And the world would have become long ago a paradise. Perhaps even better than the life we have in Australia right now. And we see even then, in the most advanced country, technologically speaking, or perhaps materially speaking, there are still a lot of uncontrollable incidents which harms humans' lives. You see, when I was on the way to you in this theater, one of my fellow practitioners in Quán method, she drove me in her car, and she was thanking me, I don't know why, for helping her to buy this car in just 5 minutes, whereby she searched about half a year before and couldn't buy it. Every time somebody took it away. But this time she succeeded. And she thought because she prayed to me, I said, well, it is all your spiritual merit. It had nothing to do with me, but she couldn't believe it. It's all right. Rest as it is. But I said, why did you have to buy a new car? She said, because the car was stolen. I said, what? In Australia? You got somebody stole your car? I can't believe it. I thought this economic situation in Australia is very stable. I was so shocked to hear it. But she said, it's true. They steal it sometimes. All right. Why do people steal? Even in such a very stable country where even the poor got looked after. No one going to be starved on the street really in Australia, right? You have social security benefit, right? For the non-employee, is that right? Yeah, should be, yes. In many countries like that, in England, France, or Germany also, you get social security money when you are temporarily out of work or without any means to support yourself while you're sick or something. It's very secured. But why do people still, I think, steal cars and things like that? It is not only because of the car itself. It was an old car anyhow. It wasn't the car. It wasn't the desire to steal that is to blame. It was the dissatisfaction in the heart of any human who does such thing. Because he's not contented to accept the way his life is or what God has meant to give him. Dissatisfaction. Why dissatisfaction? Because unenlightened. Unenlightened mind is a very unsatisfied mind. Even if that person were given a better car, he might not stop there. He might want another car or next an aeroplane. It is because we are unsatisfied with ourselves. We do not know the source of all richness, of all power. So we want this and that and others, even when it's not very necessary. Why we want these things? It is because we have been in glory, in freedom, in richness before, in heaven, before we descended into this lowly stage of thinking that we are just a human being, that we have no power, that we don't know anything, that it is very difficult to attain heaven. But I can assure you that even then, even now, we still can attain heaven. And very quickly, fast, and right here, right where we live. We don't need to go to Himalaya, even though I did. But it was not necessary for anyone to do that. I was probably destined to do so. You see, many people have different ideas about asceticism. They think if we forsake the whole world and family and go into a cave and meditate in the Himalaya, then they will attain freedom. It's not true. It's not true. I did that just because God wanted me to do that. So that I can tell you that it's not necessary to do that. Otherwise, you would not believe me. Probably you say, oh, you can't do it yourself. You're afraid of the Himalaya cold, therefore you tell us not to go because you yourself can't do it. You don't have any experience. But I had this experience in order to tell you that it was absolutely not necessary. No one needs to do anything at all. We can just stay right where we are and do what we do now and attain our greatness inside. And then we will still live on earth, but we live in heaven at the same time. We discharge our social responsibilities, but we have no desire for the reward. And we have no attachment to the possession that we have or not have. We will have no desire for the neighbor's things, or wives or husbands. Then actually the so-called precepts will just become very natural way of life for us, and it's not a precept anymore. These precepts are only guidelines while we were still unable to control our mind. But once we are in control of our mind, action and speech effortlessly, then these precepts are just child play. And we don't keep the precepts anymore because there's no necessity to keep them. We don't do anything that is not precepted anyhow. And even then, if we do, we know why. And we do not torment ourselves with the self-inflict guilt that was not necessary in that place, in that instant. But before we can do everything effortlessly, we must attain the state of understanding, of knowing the will of God, knowing the plan of the universe, that at which moment we should do what and why. And we have no resistance from within or without to accept life the way it is, and also to go on with our business without heavy burden, without feeling exhausted from just a few hours of work. And then, even then, if we work a few hours a day, the effectiveness would be much more than before. We put a lot of effort in and we couldn't do much. Most of the masters after enlightenment do not advocate people to leave their families, their friends, their business, to go into solitude or to become a monk and all that. It is because they have seen through that these outer things will not help us to attain the inner tranquility of mind. It is only we truly renounce from within that we truly have an everlasting desireless state. If we force ourselves too early to live our family ties and responsibility, just like a fruit which is not yet ripened, and we forcefully take it from the tree, then it's useless. We couldn't eat it, and the fruit will not be able to last very long either. It's neither good for the fruit nor good for us. Most of our fellow practitioners in the Quán method, means the method of contacting the true heavenly light and sound, which represents our true supreme wisdom within. They are so-called laymen, laypersons. They were no monks and nuns. But their levels of attainment is incredible. And it is difficult to measure their attainment unless you talk to them or see their way of life and their enlightenment in action. Perhaps how they handle difficult situations, perhaps how they tend to their family and help in social mission at the same time, perhaps in how they deal with aggressive people lovingly, perhaps in how they discharge their duties in such a quick, witty, and effective way. Perhaps in how they look so contented and peaceful in any situation that would blow other people's temperament apart. Perhaps in these ways we may be able to perceive somewhat the difference between these practitioners and the ordinary person. Otherwise, from the outlook, it's very difficult to know. Perhaps we have read somewhere in those spiritual novels that after you've practiced some kind of meditation a long time, you became very youthful, forever young, and never die, and never sick, beautiful, more beautiful than before, etc. These probably are true in some degree, but it doesn't happen to all spiritual practitioners because they don't aim at this material manifestation of wisdom. Perhaps it helps you to be healthier because you are more carefree within your heart and you are more surrender to the will of the universe rather than taking the whole world upon your shoulder and can't do nothing about it. Just go around worrying all day and age yourself quickly. Therefore, perhaps in this sense, the practitioners look younger, more relaxed and healthy and loving and happy. But I don't think we should expect a practitioner of 80 years old turn into 18, for example, just because he practiced a heavenly presence. But the people who eat vegetarian, who practice the Quán method, do truly look better. Some look even immediately better after the initiation, that even I myself was sometimes very surprised. I am not surprised in the sense that I don't expect this to happen, but I'm surprised that that person looks so different, that much more different than expected, and so quickly. All this because our wisdom, our supreme power, is starting to work and to correct whatever the misconstruction within our body, within our mental, or within our speech. Therefore, our appearance truly do look different. But it is not very important. All these fairy tales truly does exist. For example, before we hear that certain such person in his dream or in his difficulty, a fairy goddess or mother guardian will come and help him out and things like that. All these things happen right now in this century even. And all the spiritual healing powers and all kind of incredible supernatural power do truly exist if we practice the kingdom of God, the supreme wisdom, which is our birthright and is always there for us to achieve. If we do not practice this, if we do not find a way to recognize our greatest inheritance, no one will say anything to us. Absolutely no one has the right to say anything. It's only us, we, who suffer the loss. That we have a great treasure, we don't use it. And we suffer so much, or we have some happiness, but only very partial, very short-lived. And sometimes it is the cause of the next sorrow of tomorrow. Therefore the choice is for us to wake up into our glory or to sleep in our darkness and denying ourselves all the things that other people every day experience, which is good, which is excellent, which is incredible, which is beneficial for themselves, for their environment, for their immediate circles, and for the world at large. If we do not get enlightenment, we do not know our supreme power, we deny ourselves the greatest privilege that even angels envy, even small gods in lower heavenly regions are jealous of. And that is a pity. We are the only one to be blamed. And so, since I am here already, due to my fellow practitioners' kindness and invitation, I am willing to share with you the way to regain your greatness, to experience your true self, to have all your wishes fulfilled, and to live a more worthy life. Even though we all will die, so-called die later, or our body will decay, but at least while we are on this earth, we will live a heroic life, a strong, spiritual, and we are the tower for other people to look up to and to inspire other people to rely upon their own strength with this insight, which is incredible, which I have no true words to explain. I thank you for your attention, and maybe if you like to tell me something or ask some question, you're welcome.
Outside you have a ball that says, when I went to sign up for enlightenment, there were 5 points, and I said, I can't do that because I eat meat and I drink wine. If that's okay that you make.
To keep the enlightenment state and to be faster, you better be vegetarian. My brother, it is not desirable to eat other beings' flesh. Don't you think so? Why is it desirable to kill for your body? The rules outside are only the so-called secret method for people to want to get enlightenment quickly and to preserve it. Just if you want to follow this path, it is best for you to follow completely and wholeheartedly if you are to expect the best result of it.
Are there more than one stage of enlightenment?
Yes, more, yes.
How does one know he or she has been enlightened?
How does one not know? If you graduate from college, how do you know? Do you know it? Yes.
When one is enlightened, can there be circumstances that would lead to non-enlightenment?
No. When you're grown up, you're grown up. You can't grow back to the infant state. You might stop or retard, but you will not grow back to the infant hate again.
Can you tell us of love?
No. I can't. Why? Because these things are not to be told in language. Suppose you love your wife. How can you describe that love? You can only know it between each other. To the outsider, It means nothing. Doesn't matter how you explain it.
With respect, we would like you to explain about reincarnation.
Reincarnation is supposed to be for some so-called non-enlightened state of mind which seek to fulfill the pleasures, the desires which that person has not completely fulfilled during his stage of certain kind of being. For example, if we are so much in love with someone in this lifetime, and then for some reason the love is not fulfilled or not substituted in another way, then after both person die, he'll probably be reincarnate again and search for that old love which you have cared so much about.
I have no question, but I only ask that you take my love.
Thank you. Thank you.
If Allah, Buddha, or Jesus were alive today, would they be greenies? Greenie is someone who is environmentally conscious.
Understand. Yeah, that is the new party which protect the environment, right? Partially, perhaps, yes. You see, we should protect the greenery as much as possible for our own benefit. But we should not become a natural worshipper, whereby every tree is worth more than human being. Yes, trees are for human beings. So in case we need them, we should preserve them as much as our space, time, and the population allows. So in that case, probably Jesus and Allah, whoever, would vote for that. I'm also a nature preserver myself, and all our practitioners are not allowed to cut trees unnecessarily. Yes, we better see to the situation, where we should preserve and when and how much.
As you said, enlightenment will cause us to ignore everything, such as wealth, illness, or a higher position in society. I agree with your point of view about ignoring wealth, but how about illness? We suffer every minute. Illness causes incredible pain and misery. How can we ignore that?
We just do not feel so much suffering the way we did before enlightenment. That's all. We will tend to our body as much as we can. We give it as much comfort as it needed, and we give them medical care and all that. Should we have to suffer from illnesses, our patience, our enduring power increases, and therefore the illness doesn't bother us much. I do not say we ignore it completely. It doesn't bother us that much. And even after enlightenment, many of our illnesses just disappear. It is not miracles. It is because our superpower self awaken and regulate some of the misconstructing part in our body and destroy it. So many people found themselves with no more cancer. And even though they were already put on the operating table and anesthetic needle were already admitted to them. But then the doctor found, to their amazement, that no more cancer is there. So he was pushed outside again. So we don't ignore the illness. Illness seems to ignore enlightened people.
I have the need to be more spiritual towards all life. How do I react to the negativity around me?
If we have a spiritual tendency, then we have more tolerance towards all things, including negative influences and also any negative outlook in life. We'll be more tolerant, more understanding, and also our positive self will radiate somewhat these healing energies which correct somewhat the negative atmosphere. We don't need to do anything really. If we are truly spiritual, things will better themselves in some degree. And should that person come to us for advice or want to better himself also, then we will be in a position to tell him what to do or suggest what to do.
You said during the course of your talk that once we were perfect, but are not now. What circumstances led us to this situation?
We are lost in the circus, and we enjoy so much the circus that we forgot our home. If someone come and just tap us on the shoulder and say, "Oh, you don't belong here. You have enough now. Now you're hungry, you're cold. You should not stick here. Go home and then have some comfort."
Dear Master, there is always a fear of the unknown. How can one be certain that the Guanyin method is the right one?
Of course, you don't know until you try. But as you see from our outlining principles, you can see that even if Guanyin method doesn't do you any good or you're not certain of the benefit of Guanyin method, one thing you can be certain that it will do you no harm. No harm if you eat vegetarian diet, at least you're healthy. If you don't believe in any spiritual compassion at all, it's proved scientifically that vegetarian diet is healthy for you. Okay, so one standpoint. And the so-called 5 precepts are to protect you from the uneasiness of mind. You should have only a very loving and one-pointed relationship. You do not take what doesn't belong to you, and you do not gambling, which cause misery to yourself and others and your family. You do not take alcohol and to make your mind, your vision blurred, and you do not take drugs. It's no good for you. From all these very apparent so-called material guidelines, at least you know that our teaching, our method, will benefit you somewhat. And from then you start, and you get to know better. And at least we offer you somewhat immediate proof of enlightenment. And at least we don't cash any money for it, before, between, and after. And you have no condition, no binding whatsoever. Suppose even afterward you don't want us, we also don't do anything to you. So in any way, you don't lose anything, you will only gain. And that is the symbolic thing I can tell you. But moreover, you must use your intuitive wisdom to ascertain which path to follow. Doesn't matter what I say, you have to know it. And pray to your inner self, to God, to Jesus, to Allah, to Buddha, whoever, to help you to decide. And if you see a stronger pull to come to us, then you know it is for you. Should you not feel it, or you feel stronger pull into the world, all right, then you are not yet ready. It's very simple.
Are you connected with the Great White Brotherhood?
The White Brotherhood originally denoted those who are highly advanced beings. Of course, probably in that sense, then I also belong there. But we belong to the Almighty, belong to ourselves. That is the surest. That's the only certain answer I can give you. We belong to a group of making you yourself better, making you become a master.
Your students seem to worship you a lot and consider you like a god, a supreme being. Do you have any comments on their worshipping attitude towards you?
I have no comment. They do what they want. They're free to worship or not worship me. I don't advocate worshiping myself or me or anyone at all. I always told them that the greatness is yours. Whatever miracles you have, or whatever things that occur to you, it is because you are on spiritual path, because you practice yourself, because your own great wisdom is awakened and help you. If they worship me or not worship me, make no effect on me. But I can't stop people. I can't stop them. I can't go to each one of them and repeat the same thing all the time. I can only give a general guideline, but they, just the way they are. People are like that. Well, they will grow out of it, don't worry. But that's good for them, it's good for them. They are one-pointed. I do them no harm. And if they remember me, it's better than they remember the devil.
What do you think of sex? If you condemn sex, then you must condemn mud. But do not forget, a lotus flower comes out of mud.
You repeat what somebody else is saying. If it's from you, I still accept it. But you repeat it from another so-called master. Is that right? I never condemn sex, do I? Did I in any lecture or in my lecture condemn sex? So, I guess you want to air your view. But it's not your view, it's somebody else's view. So it's better you get enlightened yourself and have your comments on sex. You see, I never condemn sex at all. But I do not advocate teaching or encouraging or always reminding people of sex. These things all the animals can do anyhow. What's the big deal about it? That we have to condemn or worship? I don't think we should even mention it. Never mind to make it a theme of teaching or the important topic. It's nothing important. If I condemn sex, I wouldn't be here. My parents would be dead, and the Buddha never born.
How do you learn to love yourself?
Do we need to learn this? After enlightenment, we know that we are all right. That's all I can tell you. It's all right, the way I am. I don't know if I love myself or not. I just know I'm all right. I'm okay.
I just question from your book, the sample book that I have, page 40, just a query. Never in the Bible have I found a sentence which says, animals are your food. Well, reading from the Bible, Matthew chapter 15, verse 17, Jesus said, are ye also yet without understanding? Do you not understand that whatever goes into the mouth goes into the belly and is cast out into the draught? But those things which proceed from the mouth come from the heart, and they defile the man. It's not what goes in that makes a man unclean, but what comes from his heart. And the other big reference I'd like to turn to is from the book of Acts, which I'm sure you're familiar with. Peter, as you know, one of Jesus' greatest disciples, he said that he went into a trance and he became hungry and would have eaten. And he saw heaven opened and a certain vessel descending unto him, as it had been a great sheet knit at the four corners and let down to the earth, wherein were all manner of four-footed beasts of the earth, and wild beasts, and creeping things, and fowls of the air. And there came a voice to him, Rise, Peter, kill and eat. But Peter said, Not so, Lord, for I have never eaten anything that is common or unclean. And the voice spoke to him again the second time, What God hath cleansed, call not thou uncommon. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. In the first paragraph that you read in Matthew, it didn't mention meat at all. Probably Jesus at that time mentioned that because some of the people are so attached to whether eating pig or not eating pig. And certain food that they don't eat, but other food they can eat. So probably Jesus mentioned that. But he didn't say meat at all. A second, suppose Peter have seen all these, but in his vision only. And whatever God created with God's power through a visionary revelation, it is not real. It's not the fleshly, material flesh that God has wanted him to eat. Similarly, in Buddhist scriptures, there was a paragraph inside the Surangama Sutra. The Buddha mentioned that in the early days of my preaching, there are many monks who come from a different background and countries. They are not used to eating vegetarian food. Therefore, I manifested some so-called meat for them to eat through my power, magical power. But later on, if any monks eat meat, they are not my disciples, because the meat I manifested to them is not the real meat. I guess in this sense, both the Bible and the Surangama Sutra of the Buddhists say the same thing. You see, in the Old Testament, God never mentioned that we should eat meat. He said, I create all the beautiful fruits for you in the field and all the herbs in the garden. These are your food.
In the Buddhist Sutra, Buddha says, if you use the sound and the light to see me, you can't see the Buddha. But in your book, you said about the light and sound. Please tell me what difference between the light, the sound in the Buddhist Sutra and your
teaching. The Buddha didn't say the light and the sound. The Buddha said if you use the apparent form, the phenomena form to worship me, or worship my phenomenal form, then you could not see the Buddha. It means you could not see the Buddha nature. But he did not mean the light and sound, which is invisible to the eyes and inaudible to the flesh ear. That's the difference. These are transcendental light and sound, which will help you get wiser and more peaceful and more loving. The Buddha means if we cling to the ordinary form of the Buddha, doesn't matter how he appear on earth, or we cling to kind of idol worship, then we could never find our own Buddha nature. It doesn't mean this light and sound.
Dear Master, do you think the God discrimination human or not? If yes, why do God not give everybody the same skin color, the same hair, same languages? Human will not meet any problem about language, and any discrimination on skin color maybe lead to the war and violence. Please explain it for me.
God does give whatever you have just mentioned to us. But we have chosen to be in this dual stage because we like it. Should you want to be equal again, and each one look the same again in glory and beauty, then please join the heavenly hierarchy. And that's why I am here to show you how to do it, to go back to the non-discriminating state. You have the choice either to be here in this colorful dimension or to go into the dimension where there is no discrimination between the sexes, between the hate, between the rich and poor, and the color of the skin, etc. You see why God gave us so much of this so-called color? Because He's very loving. Because we want whatever we want, we get it. Yeah? He also gives us other choice. Therefore, we have many choices. That's why He gives us also this kind of word and also many other kinds of words. Like Jesus mentioned, in my Father's house, there are many mansions. So if you don't like this word the way it is, it's all right. You come to the other word, and we know the way. We can guide you. Okay. And those who do not like to go to the other world, it's all right the way you are. You stay here and do what you want. Therefore, we don't force people to follow us at all. We just offer the opportunity for those, just like you, who want to go into that kind of dimension. Yeah, every word, every place has its regulation and rules. So if you want to abide by that rules and regulation, then you stay in that place. If not, there are other kind of regulation and rules for yourself. For example, The Vietnamese or the Chinese who immigrate to Australia, even though they still so-called Chinese or Vietnamese, they have to abide by the rule of Australian government, whether they like it or not. They should never bother to ask why driving on the left side and not the right side. In my country, I always ride the right side. Why so complicated to ride on the left side? So that's the way it is. If you want to be in Australia, you just do it, make it simple, right?
Please tell me, the Buddha sound is the sound of the music or the word or the voice?
Oh, this is like musical. Seems like, but it's not exactly like the music of our world. It's indescribable. It has indescribable effect on us. It's a symbol of the inner wisdom. And the more we hear it, the better we become and wiser we become. Not the voice, not the spoken word. Sometimes it can be, but it's not generally.
We want a good result in meditation. Do you think we need to receive initiation from a real master for protection and introduction? If we haven't received the initiation and we meditate, what happens?
You see, you have heard many people that had trouble when they tried to meditate alone without an experienced guide. It's a little bit adventuresome, but if you can do it alone, it's all right. You'll find enlightenment if you can do it alone. Just that in the general, it's better to have a teacher, just like you learn English with a teacher, or you learn playing Kung Fu with a teacher. It's safer, quicker, and save a lot of time, and also save you a lot of unnecessary mistakes and downfall.
I have read through your book and your lecture, and we recognize that you didn't discriminate between this religion to another one. You always get some of the word from teachers, from Buddha and another real master. Can you tell me your religion you are using now is make a good relation between some of religion or not?
I do not advocate a particular religion anywhere because we have enough religions. And if a Buddhist should adhere strictly to the Buddhist rules and scriptures, he's a good Buddhist already. If a Christian truly lives according to the commandments, then he's a good Christian already. So I have no intention and also not necessary for me to advocate that you should follow Christian or Buddhist. We have enough churches and temples who teach people to be Buddhist or Catholic or Christian. But we help the Buddhists to get in touch with the Buddha nature, help the Christian to know the kingdom of God, should they desire to know. Should they desire to know. It's only an offering, an offer only, and no condition, no force, no money before and after, no binding involved, and no religious background or meditational experience are required. Absolutely unconditional.
If I belong to one religion, such as a Buddhist or Catholic, today I want to receive initiation from you. Do I need to leave my religion?
No, you don't need to leave your religion. I told you already. You can go to the church every Sunday or every day. I just teach you how to talk to God directly in your church, if you wish to.
Dear Master, I don't believe any religions, but I have done a good job to everybody, and I try to make our neighbor happy, also to my father too. So, if we die, can we go to the heaven?
Sure you can. Sure you can. This kind of person or the religions teach us to be. Surely you'll be in heaven. But how long it lasts, I cannot assure you. Because your merit is also limited. Because if you're good to one father, maybe in 70 years, then maybe you have 70 years of heaven. And later on, probably we have to go back again and do other merits. But if we are truly enlightened and get direct contact with God while here, then we can ask for anything. And then we don't have to go back again if we don't desire to go back. Thank you for all your love and your excitement and all your questions. You love because you recognize I am yourself. You are excited because you care. You care about my lecture and what I say. Thank you both. Yeah, I see you around.